Thank you very much, Pilar, for inviting me to share some of my thoughts. Thank you, Antti, Carsten, and Alessandro. If my basic math are correct, 4 times 7 minutes is 28. You're leaving me with about 2. So I do my best to prevent everyone else in the room to be angry at me because I'm holding you back from dessert. Maybe you can have your dessert while I'm speaking. I'm still hungry because I haven't had my main course, but that's okay.
The morning will be cold.
And yours is cold. No, there's a lot of talk about deindustrialization of Europe as a threat. And I think it's also prominently mentioned in one of your reports, Carsten, that recently you have shared. I'm an optimist like Carsten, Alessandro, and Antti. I do believe that the digital revolution, this new industrial revolution that we are facing right now, is a huge opportunity. There's a huge opportunity for Europe to actually take a leading role again for societal benefit, not only in Europe but actually globally. But, and there's a big but, it requires a fundamental mind shift. It's not about technology as such. It is about technology as an enabler only, but it's more about the data that you refer to, Alessandro, and the way processes and people deal with data. I think that's our biggest challenge, and that's where we are really, I wouldn't say in no man's land, but we are at the very beginning of a probably long development. I quite like the challenge that Gartner has given to the industries when they said every single business, literally every single business, is by definition a digital business, either already today or very, very soon. And every single CEO, if he wants to be successful, or she, has to be his own CDO, Chief Digital Officer. No way to outsource that to specialists anymore. It has to be embedded in the DNA of your companies that you lead. So it is not necessarily about technology, but more about the data at the heart, how we have access to data that's already largely available at the right time, at the right place, and in a secure way. And I will try to use 2 use cases to share a bit my own world that I'm operating in, because I'm in charge of complex industrial solutions at BT. And I'm going to use, well, I've not asked my son, but I took these 2 little vehicles. So these are the 2 use cases I'm going to briefly talk about. The first one is takes me here. For those that can't see it, it's actually a big bugger with a big shovel, and it will take us into the mining industry, which has been, mining and oil and gas has been badly hit recently. Natural resources, oil price, I don't have to explain that. I mean, they're in a dire state right now, looking at how to save their skin. In an operational environment, in the mine today, you have these big baggers, these big shovels, up to 100 meters long. That's a football pitch. Huge monsters with hundreds of control and monitoring points that monitor all sorts of data. So the data is there, but the data is somewhere in the middle of the mine. And that is not good, because that doesn't help you to optimize your operational environment. So we're working on solutions to extend the connectivity that you quite rightly referred to as a key element into this operational environment. And it's possible with technology today. So you can put devices into the shovels, the baggers, and enable preemptive maintenance. So you reduce the maintenance time, or the number of big shovels that is normally 10% of all the vehicles. They're very expensive. You reduce that significantly by more than 50%. You prevent, by real-time monitoring of these vehicles that are interconnected between each other, you prevent accidents in the mines. Actually, the big 100-meter monsters driving over the smaller monsters, which are also still big, at which point the mine has to be closed. Each closing of a mine costs about 5 million. So I think you get the gist of it. There's a huge amount of operational savings potential in there if we only activate, get access, and make use of the data that's already there. My other example takes us actually at the risk side, and that's probably the most loved, certainly for Germans, device that they have at home, the mobile device, the car. While I think we are all fascinated how cars have turned into mobile devices, moving devices with all the technology and the good and bad software, I may say sometimes, that they have embedded. But no, they are moving devices. That's great at a first glance, and it enables us to create new business models. So you can today get an insurance that's usage-based. Yeah? You pay car insurance according to how many kilometers you drive, and you can significantly reduce your insurance bill by actually thinking hard whether you drive or you walk or you bicycle. Yeah? That's done by putting a little sort of connection, like they call it dongle, into the OBD, which is some sort of connection point in the car, onboard diagnostics, and with that little device you can then sort of GPS, so you can monitor what the driver is doing. That's great business model. Young companies, established companies jumping on it. They haven't figured out the security, and that is unfortunately one of the about 10 different access points for hackers. So if you have this type of insurance, great for your pocket, for your purse, maybe bad for your health, because you are actually vulnerable to attacks. And that takes us to, I think Alessandro or Carsten mentioned it earlier, it takes us to this enormously important balance between data accessibility, making it available, and somehow protecting, securing, finding that balance. So I just want to close by mentioning my 2 bits, my 5 cents and 2 bits of recommendations. The one is, if we want to make the digital single market work for Europe and beyond, I think the Parliament and the Commission should, with the industry, work really, really hard in removing some of the bottlenecks for connectivity to give access to the data. And for business, that means business level, business-enabled wholesale access, business-grade SLAs that really and are able to give this end-to-end service level agreement and so on, which today are really rare, and that's a particular ask to also be pushy with the US, where we see a particularly difficult situation for European companies. That's not a level playing field. So that's number one. And number 2 is, yes, please make this security, but this balance between data flow, which is really important for businesses, and data protection, which is our, I would say, European heritage. It's something we can be proud of. Let's turn it into a positive by figuring out how we create this flexible balance between protection, security, and open data flow. With that, I'm going to pack my cars, take them back home, not to be beaten up by my son. Thank you very much.